have today Khemit Bailey, a founder of Character Arc, which is a mentorship program that helps you to create success with stories in your business, right?
Not necessarily in business.
No?
I really help people with personal and professional transitions. So I do that through my course and through one-on-one mentorship. But it's in different domains in life, not just business. Yeah.
I was so impressed, when our dear friend Marcelle introduced us, and there were so many stories and so many great information that came from you, and I was like, wow, tell me more, tell me more.
Yeah, we had a great discussion that first night. Yeah.
Yeah, and I found out that you wrote great blogs about how they actually don't get into the trap of the money, or tell me more about this, because our audience, they're all people who are striving to success, who wants more money with their programs, who wants to get actually out of this money trap. So what are your top 3 advices how to get out of the money trap?
Top 3, okay.
Top 3.
Let's see. I think it's first important to understand what the money trap is, which is,
so what is it?
The trap of feeling like the end goal of any venture is money. And I think that that's a mistake. I think it's a mistake to look at money as the end goal, because money's a tool. And so it's really something that aids you in getting the things you really want, but it's not the thing that you really want. And you know that because you see celebrities who have lots of money who commit suicide, unfortunately, and people who have lots of money who are deeply dissatisfied. And so I was in a similar situation for a long time, and I realized
what
that.
What happened to you?
Well, I was working for a large tech company. I was making really good money, better than I'd ever made before.
What is really good money?
Tell
us numbers.
I was making 6 figures. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a lifestyle in the job that I liked a lot. I was traveling all the time. I had all the things I thought I would want.
You thought you would want.
Exactly. Yeah. But
what did you want really?
Well, the thing is, what I wanted really, and the things that inspire people, are not associated with what they get or what they have. I think it's associated with who they want to be. So if you're moving in a direction of who you want to be, I think that provides you more satisfaction than acquiring things. And I also realized that after playing with that idea for a while, that by aiming for who you want to be, the material things you want actually do come to you. So it's kind of a shifting of the frame.
Give me an example of that.
Well, so I'll give you an example. I decided I wanted to change my life in some meaningful ways. And
what meaningful means to you?
Well, for me, meaningful meant getting out of the money trap and being stuck in that job. A lot of my friends who work there and still work there feel trapped because they're like, I've reached the peak of my success, the pinnacle. Where do I go from here? I can't quit. I'll give up all this money. But the problem is that if you think of the money as something that, is the only goal, then giving it up is unthinkable.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I realized that I had different goals. I wanted my life to be aligned around the things that I valued. And this is kind of what I help people to discover is what is it that you actually value in the world, in your life? And I realized that in order for me to be in alignment with my values, I needed to take steps to move towards doing something that I found more inspirational. And so, but then by leaving my job and by embarking on this quest to start the character arc and do what I do now, I felt my relationship got stronger. I have a girlfriend now of 3 years. That is something I know I couldn't have had back then because
Why not? How is actually your success and the money trap connected to your private life?
Yeah.
What is the correlation? Because
I think it's
we had a lot of chats about how the guy gets a girlfriend long term, moves together different country and having the most beautiful, adoring relationship, which I observed a few days.
Yeah.
How is it working?
Well, I think that if you don't feel inspired, then no one is inspired by you. And I think that and you're not inspired by yourself. And I don't think that's the right frame of mind to be in to form a deep relationship with someone, with anyone, with family, with possible relationship partners, with anyone really. I think that you have to be inspired by what it is you're doing, and that inspiration is what draws people to you. And what draws people to you is also what draws success to you. And so I think that instead of coming up with tips and tricks, I think that it's really just a shifting of the frame from have to be.
Yeah. So this being, actually, if we talk about being, and you're saying feeling like being in a money trap, you can actually change the being within the money trap. For example, some of my clients, we say like, Bali inside of our hands, like how you can be actually create the same environment inside of your hands, so to become not feeling like you're in trap or in prison, but feeling differently.
Yes.
What is your approach on that?
Well, and the approach I take with myself and with my clients is the same. And I think a lot of people feel like they have to make extreme external changes to change their lives.
Yeah, like quitting job, quitting relationships.
Move across the world. Yeah. I did all that.
And
it didn't, no, I mean, look, so it worked when I was intentional about it.
Yeah.
When I was doing it for reasons that I was very clear about, then it worked.
Yeah.
When I was doing it because I didn't know what I wanted to do, or because I was dissatisfied with what I was doing, then no, it didn't work. It just put me in a different place with the same set of problems.
Yeah, because like your minds had been the same, and you've been actually feeling the same thing, but like environment has changed, the background has changed, but like the same problems and the same fears and the same insecurities came out, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly. It's like they say, wherever you go, there you are. And it's true,
Yeah, it doesn't remember like in which location. This is actually a great tip for the digital nomads who are actually trying to find the best possible location, but actually something what they're missing. They're missing the sense of connection, the sense of community, and the sense of belonging, right, in some point.
Yeah, well, I think for digital nomads specifically, I think one of the problems that they run into most frequently, and I've run into it myself, is mistaking the constant flux and change for the adventure. Right? Because the adventure seems like, my adventure is tied to my location. I think the real adventure is the exploration of those internal things that we were talking about, tackling the hard problems that maybe aren't as sensational. And that's harder, it may be harder to actually do that and stay stable in one place and find that stability that you need instead of constantly moving.
And find those adventures within yourself with the same group of people, or with the same partner, with the same group of co-workers, just trying out different activities, or trying out different, let's say, internal experiences, which actually brings you the same sense of adventure, but instead of like investing into costs of flights, transportations.
And you talk about connection. I know you talk about connection all the time. And I find that connection is hard to have consistently when you're always on the road. So if you find yourself deprived of connection, you might draw a link between that and the fact that you're not staying anywhere long enough to connect. To connect and
to build up a relationship. Something, when we talk about like, these connections in one of my workshops, these deep connections, we talk like a lot about actually how do you establish this deep connection with another person, and by actually being mobile, being so traveling from one place to another place. Something I'm curious about you, like how, like, because the ways that how I lead my relationships, like, the moment I connect to one person and we're friends, and it doesn't mean that if I move away, this friendship is stopping. We're still texting, we're still like, updating each other, we're still like, oh, what happened to you like last 3 months? This is like how you build up this connection. How do you manage that in your like nomadic beings?
Well, first off, I don't think of myself as a nomad. I
you
live
just
here.
Relocated?
Well, yeah, I'm an expat.
Okay.
And before
I'm just an expat.
But before this, I was like a slow mad.
To
borrow a term from a friend of mine.
What is a slow mad?
Well, I was here last year. I went to Thailand for the winter. But I was mainly here. I was spending 6 months at a time here in Portugal. And a lot of my nomad friends, true nomads, they're going every month. They're every month or every 3 months somewhere else. So I'm not quite to that degree. When I was traveling for work with my last company, I was traveling every week. And that was really hard. And that was my first year together with my girlfriend. And so at that time, you're right, communication was the only way that we managed to build anything. Because when we're not physically together, we had to at least be updating each other.
Emotionally, you had to be emotionally.
Well, because
together.
you change. You change from week to week, you change from day to day.
Of course.
And you change from week to week for sure, and from month to month for certain. So if I don't see you or talk to you for a month, the next time we talk, there's a lot to catch up on.
A lot of things happen.
So I find that it's figuring out which relationships are the most valuable for you, and then really dedicating time to those. Same with family, because family is another one, especially for nomads. And even for me as an expat, we tend to be separated from our families, and then we start to have problems with our families, which is no surprise because we're not near them and talking to them, and then that is another source of dissatisfaction in our lives. So So yeah, connection.
It's actually like this problems, you know, when I have conversations with many of the friends who are nomads, like, oh, like my parents are not talking to me. Oh, my parents are upset. Or like, you know, all my friends are upset with me. Like, of course they are, because they've been missing you.
Yeah.
And this why like you took their love away from them, and this why they're upset towards you. And this why you just need to come there and be there with them and listen to all their frustrations, because you withdraw on this, like, you know, sense of love, and this why you need to give them space to be together.
Yeah, and you can mitigate it even when you're not together physically. By staying in touch. But and by showing that you value those relationships. So
So call your parents.
Call your
call
mom.
your friend. Call your dad. Make sure you're connected to that.
Yeah.
Something what I was like very interested yesterday in our conversation is about, like, you said if you move somewhere away with intention, and we found out that actually that this magic that you speak about is this kind of intention that you put into things, that you put into actions. And that's, you know, in my Juicy Life society, is like intention and consciousness. This is this conscious, intentional actions. Like, how do you live your life? How would you describe us like this recipe from all the stories that you've observed? Tell us a little bit like more about this magic and those like Games of Thrones, Harry Potter. This is very exciting for us.
Well, those are the examples I used, right? Because they're some of the biggest stories of the last 100 years almost.
Yeah.
You know, the Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Game of Thrones, The Matrix, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
All those stories. So there's an underlying structure to those stories that's all the same. And it's a modern formulation, which is you start out with a character in a place where there's no magic, or a world where there's no magic, right? And all those examples, if you think about it, you can see how that's the case, right? And then the character accepts the call to adventure, right? Something calls them to try to be something more than they are.
Yeah.
And as they do that, and through the process of doing that, magic reemerges in the world. In Harry Potter, he goes off to Hogwarts, you know, and Star Wars, Luke discovers the Force and a teacher who then shows him.
Force.
Yeah, that's magic. It's magic, right? It's magic in that universe. So in all those stories, magic kind of reemerges as a consequence of the hero accepting the call to adventure. And so I think of magic as the vehicle by which meaning reintroduces itself into our lives. Yeah, because that's what it is. It's like it's the way that the world aligns in your favor when you make the appropriate sacrifices, when you move in the directions that inspire you. When you do what is in alignment with your values, what your values call you to do. And I've seen it myself personally. I think it's also...
Tell us like how it's like in your personal life,
well,
like this kind of values have made this...
Sure.
And how the magic came in, please. I'm so excited.
I'll give you the example. I'll use the same example I used before with my relationship.
Yes.
Which is, you know, I left my job, like my high-paying, very, you know, well-structured job, to do something much more risky. And it was terrifying, and things immediately went bad. You know, I had a medical issue that came up right after I quit.
Where was that?
Well, I don't want to go into it too much, but I was still in California.
Details. This is like on which part of the body, on which level of the body do you...
I'd rather not go into it.
Okay.
But I had a medical issue that happened right after I quit my job that cost me like $3,000 because of the American medical system. It's so messed up, and I didn't have insurance anymore. So I'm immediately in, you know, a rut with money. I was trying to get my business together, and I wasn't figuring out how to do it well. All things went badly. But as that was happening, I started dedicating my efforts towards making things work better for me. And I kept my eyes in the direction that I wanted to be moving in. And my relationship got stronger as everything else was falling apart. And that's what sustained me. And that's magic to some degree. Well, yeah, my girlfriend, she takes care of me, and she moved here with me, and she's been a source of endless inspiration in my life. And she only is that because I moved in a direction that prioritized her, and that prioritized the things in life that I valued. And, you know, people started coming out of the woodwork to help me, and that's the magic. As soon as you take on something of meaning and value, people see it, and they want to help you, and then the world starts to align itself in your favor. Even if things go badly, you start to see that magic emerging. And not only that, you also feel it, because there's a feeling I have now of deep meaning with everything that I do in my work that I've never had before. And it feels magical, you know, and it didn't mean that everything turned out perfectly. You know, I don't make nearly as much money as I did when I was at my last company.
That's okay.
I'm
You
still
will eventually.
Oh no, well, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining at all. I'm just saying that never in your life is everything perfect.
Yeah.
But that you can reduce the suffering and you can reduce the dissatisfaction you feel by just picking a direction that motivates you and moving in it. Yeah, even when it's scary.
Yeah, but now like something what you do is creating you a lot of fun, a lot of joy, a lot of meaning, and a lot of satisfaction, which before maybe you didn't have the same experience.
Yeah.
So you have like this internal satisfaction versus some external payments which didn't match. And this is like the question: what do you prioritize more? You know, your internal.
Yeah, your well-being.
Like your internal values or the external values that is paid off, you know, in dollars or in euros.
Or in cents, yeah. Well, people are often given their values, right? And they take the values they're given as opposed to delving into their own values. And that's why I think fiction, this is why I use stories and fiction to delve into that kind of thing, because what you really value is reflected in your emotions. All right? So when you watch a movie, what you see reflected in the movie, in yourself, is what makes you feel emotion. And so you can use that because it points you in certain directions. Like whenever I see a character in a movie acting with gratitude or acting with humility or acting with some sort of bravery, it inspires me, let's say. Yeah. And when you feel that, you realize, oh, that thing matters to me, humility, bravery, generosity, kindness, whatever it is. And it's different for each person. And so anytime I work with my clients and they watch a movie and we then dive into what they felt, it's always different, even if it's the same movie. 10 people can watch The Lion King and pull out 10 different things.
Yeah, because something what like, you know, you change every day, and each time you get something else what resonates with you, and each time, let's say, the outside world is mirroring something what's going on inside of you, and because of that you see that, and this is what actually is there on your plate coming out.
Exactly right. The stories are really just a reflection of you.
Yeah. So the magic, tell us a little bit like more how to with the magic. So how can you bring like this magic in your life?
How can you bring? Well, I think there are mechanisms, right, that are consistently good at doing that. One is to always lean in to fear.
Leaning into fear.
Yeah, and I think that this is the hardest thing to do because we're not always aware of what we're afraid of because we avoid it. Like anytime that we start feeling the inkling of anxiety or discomfort, we move the other direction. Yeah, it's like, but we do it unconsciously. We just say, okay, I don't want to do this. Like public speaking, I don't want to, that's, you know, it's not my forte. I have a million reasons I can come up with why I don't need to do it. So why bother? You know, or, you know, commitment in a relationship. You can find a million reasons not to do it. I did for, you know, over 30 years. But by realizing that those resistances, right, those rationalizations are fear-based, you can then figure out what it is that you're avoiding. And what I've noticed is that anytime I move towards things that I've been avoiding, my life improves. But first, it's terrifying. And it might be terrifying for a while, but there's always an upswing. So that may be, that's a broad one, of course. But I think that fear is a good guide. I think
fear is the best guide for your personal transformation.
It is. It's a landmark.
The moment you own your fear, you explore more of your unlimited potential. Like that's very easy. But you know, for example, in my work, I do a lot of like actually talking to the fears and what is the fear is telling you and what you can learn from that and how you can actually not like conquer the fear or step over the fear, but how you can actually see it to your advantage and how you can use it for parenting the fear and giving them, you know, a response, how to grow out of it, grow together up with the fear through this transformation, because personal transformation is the bumpy road, right? Like you said it in your own,
to say the least,
in your own example, right? Like our physical body reflects to that, our emotions, our stability, external world. Each time we do this external transformation, the internal, it's like all in coming together. I'm very curious about how did you, because recently I meet so many men who actually wanted to get a partner, who's super successful, but they kind of swiping, and no one is good enough for them.
Yes. Yeah.
How could you address that?
Well, I was one of those guys.
So where was it this transformation inside of your head? Like how did you why did you like exactly on this person decide, okay, now I go over my fear of commitment. Now I change.
Well, I think that it was figuring out what I really wanted. Because here's the thing, you say there's a lot of guys who want commitment, but then no one's good enough for them. They're swiping.
Yeah.
I think that what you really want, not what you think you want, but what you really want is played out in your actions. And so if the way you're acting doesn't get you the thing that you claim to want, you don't really want it. Because if you really want something, there's a cartoon I saw that I used in a blog post that said, there was somebody on a stage and they say, who wants change? And everyone raises their hand. And he says, who wants to change? And no hands go up. And I think that's the case. I think that's...
Yeah, the action that you do or you do not do, right, defines actually your aspiration.
Exactly. Like who you are is really what you do in the world. And so I realized that all the actions I was taking, swipe out, being on Tinder all the time, the way I was interacting with potential mates, the way I was willing to commit or not commit to any person I was going out with, was being reflected in the outcomes. So, because I didn't really want a connection. If I did, I wouldn't be doing that. But it would be hard because it's really hard. It's really hard to get off Tinder. It's really hard to stop swiping, especially when you've built that habit.
Like, you know, you
it's
have
literally
this,
addictive.
Yeah. I mean, you have this kind of like excitement, something new, newness is coming, and as well, like it gives you like this kind of security that something else or someone else gonna come. That's why you need to keep swiping because it gets you in this kind of addictive mode. But the advantage of it, like, you know, you don't get as deep with anyone if you keep swiping because it keeps you in the very safe space of not going too deep and things are not too personal and not too much.
Exactly. And it keeps you from commitment because anytime, you know, you have a little fight or you see one little thing you don't like or anything disturbs you, you're back on your phone. You're like, okay, because there's an endless stream. So why would you ever settle down? You wouldn't, unless you're very clear about what it is you really want. And I think what happened was not partially through efforts I'd been taking, but partially just through, I think, internalizing that understanding. I started to try to behave in a way that was consistent with what I really wanted, my deeper desires. And when I did that, I got into this relationship.
So you say, like, you know, tips for the guys who really want to get a partner in their life. So first thing, to get off the dating platforms. Yeah,
I mean, I hate to say it because it's so hard for people, especially who travel a lot or in new places, to date. And I myself was on the dating platforms, and I recognize how good it is to be on them if you're trying to meet people and if you think that way. But I think that it does more harm than good. I think especially for women it does more harm than good.
Yeah,
because it changes the dynamics of dating in a way that is not beneficial towards women. Because like I think the guys tend to be much more, you know, willing to swipe. Willing to upgrade in their own terms, you know, and not willing to commit because there's an endless opportunity. So I think that getting offline is a good idea, and doing things in person. I think also that even if you want to stay online with dating, that it's a good idea to set boundaries as far as what you are willing to do in a dating scenario. You know, like say, okay, I'm gonna go on a date with this person, but I'm going to commit to trying to find something there that will actually that I actually want. And if you don't, you know, not everybody's right for everyone else.
No, of course not.
But I think that by setting the intention, you at least can give the person that you're seeing a chance.
Yeah.
Right.
What I really want out of this meeting.
Right. And if I'm going to go on a second date with this person, I'm not going to get on Tinder in between.
Yeah.
You know, and if I'm going to go on a third date with them, I'm not going to get on Tinder in between, because all I'm doing is just giving myself endless reasons to not. You know, commit to that person, to
not be together, to be present with this person actually, and really be there.
Yeah, and look, I make no illusions to say that it's not hard. I think it was one of the most difficult things I did was to get off the apps and get into like real life. But
to real person.
But what came out of it has been unbelievably positive. So
yeah, something as well, like, you know, what I recommend to the people who I coach is, like, you know, if you do it online, to get into the place where actually you would connect to the person on some interests, on the common similarities. This is how you can actually connect the best. you know, meetups or even couch surfing to go somewhere like, you know, and travel together
Yeah.
to some places, or go to the course, go to, I don't know, some hobby activities where you actually start meeting those people.
Yeah, and that's good for you because then you're also learning things as you do it.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's all good.
Yeah. So what's juicy life means for you?
Well, I forget all the letters in the acronym. Can you give me a few so I can?
Joyful?
Yes.
Let's talk about what's joyful in your life right now.
What's joyful? Okay. Well, I love where I live. This park where we're sitting is beautiful, and it's 5-minute walk from my house. And that's a constant source of joy because I come here to work out, I come here to work, and then I come here sometimes just to meet friends. Sometimes all in the same day. So being outdoors more brings joy into my life. My girlfriend brings joy into my life all the time. You've met her. She's in the food. Well, she's kind of a food expert and a wine expert and just an aesthetic expert. So she makes everything around us beautiful and delicious all the time. So that's a huge source of joy in my life. My family is a huge source of joy. We had a death in the family recently, and I went back home for the funeral, and as sad as experience as that was, it was also really great to have all of the family come together and like rekindle those bonds that are the ones that really carry you through your life. And I think as I get older, I realize that my family is becoming more important to me. And I was never the type of person who like put a strong emphasis on family. I was always traveling. I haven't lived, you know, near my family for over 20 years. But that's a great source of joy in my life also.
Unapologetic. This is the U. The second one, G-U.
Unapologetic?
Unapologetic. Tell me the story of your life where you, through being unapologetic, you got to your success.
Well, I am not a very apologetic person. I'm very wishy-washy, I feel like, on the inside. But once I make decisions externally, there's very little that influences me.
Yeah.
So when I decided to leave Apple, everyone thought I was crazy. You know, all my friends who worked there, all my friends who lived in Silicon Valley and are used to having, you know, more stable jobs and are all aiming for positions like the one I had, thought I was insane.
What was your position?
Well, I was a manager in corporate secrecy. So I was basically helping my company keep their products secret before they were announced to the world. And it's a very big company, so they have a lot of invested in that. But I just mean the kind of position that is, you know, at a company like that, making that kind of money in that part of the world. The mindset there is very much like, no, you hold on to this. But I had to let it go because I needed something different. And I was unapologetic about that. And what I've noticed is that now a lot of my clients come from that world. And that aspect of being unapologetic is what drew them to me, because they're like, how do I do that? Because it's terrifying, I think, for a lot of people to say, I'm going to leave behind these things that I've been putting a lot of importance on my whole life.
Yeah, sure.
How do I do that? Yeah. Intuition.
Intuition in your work. How do you use intuition in your career? Or how did you use intuition in your career?
Intuition. Well,
a story.
Yeah,
Short story.
I guess intuition is something that you learn. You know, intuition is similar to wisdom.
Or do you learn it to follow? After you follow.
I think you learn to lead by learning to follow. So I was in the Air Force for 6 years, and while I didn't love it because I've been a very authority averse my whole life, but it was the best experience I could have had as someone like that, because I needed to learn to follow. I need to learn. Hey, you're 20 years old, whatever I was when I joined. You don't know anything. Be humble. Learn from the people around you. And then once you've learned that foundational knowledge, then you can play with it. And that's intuition, because then you learn how the world works. And then you can start to figure out how you can play with that to move things in a way that's advantageous to you. So now I use my intuition to guide me, because I think I've built it up well enough that it's fairly good at guiding me. But it can be a double-edged sword, because the intuition is tied to feelings often, and feelings aren't always the right source of direction.
Intuition communicates in feelings.
Yeah.
But then it's up to you how to take this feeling and what to take us out of it.
Right. And you can say, okay, am I feeling intuition, or am I rationalizing? You know, you say, I have an intuition that I need to move in this direction. then you need to delve into why.
Yeah. Am I feeling my fear, or am
Exactly.
I feeling the right voice
Exactly.
of my higher self?
Yeah.
And unless we actually have figured out the fears, we cannot really hear well our intuition.
Exactly.
Just a side note. Success. What is a success for you? And
Yeah.
how do you use creativity for your success?
Well, success to me is, and this is a definition I've been thinking about a lot lately, is progress towards who I want to be. When I am making progress towards who I want to be, I feel like I'm being successful.
Accomplishments.
Yes, but it's also the process of seeing progress. You know, the accomplishments maybe come at the end of a long road of work, but during that long road of work, I can also feel a sense of success because I'm doing the work. Whereas I think before I equated success with these concrete things, you know, like the job, the money, the position, the prestige. Whereas now I see
Social status.
social status. Yeah.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah. Well, and all those things are important to people. We're a social creature.
Yeah.
But I think that it's kind of a cheat code to aim for who you want to be, and that is, I think, the real meaning of success. At least it has been for me.
There's some animals coming in.
Yeah, some flies.
Into
It's fly season in Lisbon. See, like the one downside of Lisbon is like too many flies. Boo hoo.
That's okay. What's yummy? What's yummy in your life?
Yummy. All the food I eat.
From a
Yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
Zara. Yeah.
My girlfriend runs Juiciest Delicious, which is a
Yeah.
locally based business that just makes food beautiful for people. And she does recipe creation, and
so
to do that, to do that, she's constantly making things at home, and I'm the test subject.
Look at you.
So my life is super yummy in every respect.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Just because a beautiful fly visited us, can we do what is your animal and how does this animal sound?
How does it sound?
Yeah.
Wow, we talked about this the other night, and I had a
I
terrible
know
answer.
you
Now you put me on the spot again. So
I know that.
I used to strongly relate to the wolf, right? Because I was a loner. I was always like, I
Yeah.
thought that my strength was in being alone. And that was a dumb formulation because wolves are never alone. They're a pack animal.
Yeah.
But
No, they're not. Yeah.
but I thought of wolves, you know, the lone wolf idea.
Oh. And then you got a girl, and then you want to create a pack.
Yeah, now I'm like those penguins that like do their little dance when they mate for life. My animal, I'm not sure if I've thought about this enough to have an answer that I feel connected to yet.
No. Okay, if I would ask you like to make a sound of an animal that resonates with you the most, what would that be?
If I was gonna make the sound, the church bells.
Speaks to you.
I honestly, okay, so here's my answer. This is a cheat code. This is a cheating answer.
Okay.
But I think that the best animal to possibly be is a human.
Okay.
Because we have the capacity to feel, I think, the greatest joy and the greatest sense of meaning of any animal in the animal kingdom. I think that other animals feel those things, but we have a layer of abstraction above that that lets us see a beauty in the world that I think is unavailable to others. And so the sound of us speaking right now is the sound of the animal that I value the most.
Okay, so sound of joy is what?
The sound of joy,
Yeah.
laughter.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep dodging around this.
Okay. It's okay, it's a lather. So thank you so much. It was beautiful Khemit. So inspiring, so juicy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you guys. So where can we find more about you?
Well, I talk about these ideas with fiction and personal development in my podcast. It's called the Character Arc Podcast. And you can find that on any podcasting app like Spotify, iTunes, or Stitcher. My website is thecharacterarc.com, and all the information about everything I do is there. And that's ARC, not ARK with the arc.
ARC.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
with
character
C.
arc. Yeah, it's the arc of the character.
See. Guys, thank you, and have a juicy life, guys. It's love. Bye bye.